Welcome to the Semi Toxic Podcast. There are worse things out there for you. My name is DeadSlayer54.
I'm Marigold54.
I'm Kai, the only one. No 54.
Not
Loser.
yet. We wrote topics, and the host, that's me, will be picking them using a random generator. Although we already rolled this one, it will be the implications of time travel.
Ooh,
Fucking hell yeah!
Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe. So, implications of time travel. Naturally, it's kind of a strange subject, so good place to possibly start would be how do you guys think, in your best description, time truly operates? How does time work as far as you know?
Always perfect, never changing.
I am
I
so
think it's
perfect.
more like a movie. One scene
Understandable.
follows after another.
Oh,
Understandable.
you don't believe there's like different timelines or anything like that?
No, so like in a movie, like say Flash goes back in time and all of a sudden he's on a different timeline. That first timeline still exists, just earlier in the
Oh,
movie.
I get you. So he just left his timeline and went to another one.
Yeah, kind of, but it's all one timeline. It's just like everything changed because he messed with his version of time.
So he's not on a different
But
timeline.
like
He's on
in
the
the
same
movie,
timeline.
yeah, in the movie, if you rewind the thing, his original timeline's still there.
So then it would be a different timeline.
But okay, let's say like
I,
Back to the Future,
I
sure.
think one of the problems is that do you know that timeline is actually also refers to like the actual line of a movie?
Oh,
Okay, that's probably
well,
what.
let's
That's why I
pretend
was
for a
confused.
second
I was like,
it's
wait,
different.
how can it not be a different
No. I'm
timeline?
talking about like in a movie,
Okay.
like somebody will travel back in time and then they come back to the present, and oh my god, the present's changed. But that time still exists. But that time still exists in the movie. From like the movie reel's perspective, nobody went backwards or forwards or did anything. And so that's what I feel like time is. So for us, we could change stuff, and from our perspective, it'll look like stuff changed. But from like the perspective of time itself, nothing's actually changed. That's just how it was always going to be.
Oh,
I,
okay. I
I
get what
see
you
what you're
mean.
saying.
It's like what we're saying, but it's not completely determinist. You're saying things can change, and when it's been changed, it's how it's always been changed. It was meant to have been
Yeah,
changed. Okay, I think for
yeah.
Yeah,
us, yeah. Okay.
that's how I kind of see it too. Is like the whole, like, say a horrible event happened and so someone goes back in time to change that event. They would never have gone back in time to change the event because if they did, it would never have happened.
Yeah, that's one of my things too.
So
That, and
I
also like the concept of like it happens all the time in Doctor Who where it's like they do something so that like they'll get mysterious help, and then at the end of the episode they'll find out it's because they actually went back in time to help them,
That's closer
and
to
they're
what I
already
believe.
in the loop.
That's the
Yeah.
closer to what I believe. I believe that if you go back to change an event, then you can't change it whatever because whatever you did already happened.
so
So
you're both believers in like closed loops.
yeah,
I'm a believer in closed loops because that's just how it makes the most sense to me. And the like, if you were in a loop, how would that have started?
hmm
Like the episodes of Doctor Who where they only survived because the Doctor went back in time to help them survive. But that means he already survived without that assistance to start the loop. But then how could that have happened?
I'm
See, I'm
yeah.
remembering that Milo Murphy episode. All right, so Cavendish, Dakota, and Milo go to the future. They're trying to like fight the pistachio plants. Don't worry, you guys. No one in the audience needs the context for this. But they go to like they're trying to sneak around when all of a sudden Dakota gets hit in the back of the head with a peach, and that stops them from turning a corner where they would have been caught by like the enemies and whatever. And Cavendish is like, "Who throws a peach at someone?" And Dakota's like, "Well, who would throw a perfectly good peach away?" And he picks it up. Later in the episode, they go back in time and see that their past selves are about to run into the platoon, so Dakota then throws the peach at his past self's head. And the exact same scene plays out. And Cavendish goes like, "Wait a second, where'd that peach come?" And Dakota's like, "Oh, I picked it up when someone threw it at me earlier." "Yes, but that someone was you." "Yeah, so where did he get the peach?" "Oh, he must have, oh, he got it when I picked it up earlier." "But where did it come from?" "Oh, someone threw it at us earlier." "Yes, but that someone was you."
Exactly, and that's a pretty pop.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad they did that because they mentioned the problem with that philosophy. But that happens in a lot of different depictions of time
It does. It
travel
does.
that without that parody explaining the issue. Because that's also that time travel movie, and I can't remember which movie exactly from Harry Potter, where they like someone throws a rock at them and then they turn around, they notice that like some authority people that were coming over that would have caught them, and so they know to
Yeah.
hide.
And then they
And
were saved by people later, and it turns out it was them
exactly.
saving themselves. Yeah.
But yeah, that happens in Doctor Who, that happens in that episode of Harry Potter. There was a book series that I used to read, Charlie Bone, where there was a time travel episode. I wish I remember the details, but that was when I was in third grade, I want to say.
Hmm.
But I remember having problems with similar philosophy, or at least the crashing thereof, uh, with time travel bit.
So I am not a believer in closed loops, partially because of that paradox, but also because, like, unlike what closed loops would imply with you being able to like change how time goes.
But yeah, like the main problem with that is because like there is somewhere it would make sense for it to have started, like say probably in Doctor Who, he would have come up with another solution that would have allowed him to get through that situation without the assistance. But then maybe he would think, "Man, I wish I had that assistance," and then he would give it to himself.
Yeah.
And I could see that being a potential start. But at the same time, why would it matter? Because then he would have just found the solution.
Mm-hmm. And that's my
He's
thing about.
fixing a problem that was never a problem.
I think that like that's one of the problems with time travel in general is that I think that like just the act of time travel is in itself a paradox.
Hmm.
Oh,
You
it
know?
absolutely
Yeah.
is.
So it's like people always say don't touch a crush a butterfly or do anything, but it's literally like you breathe. You sneezing could be like a butterfly effect. You know.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's like you can't really do anything, right? Like you breathing just a little bit more air, you being in the way where someone walks left instead of where they should have walked right. Like just you existing in it where you shouldn't exist is a paradox. So it's just one of those things.
Paradoxes are always a lot of fun to discuss.
There was one in Star Trek Voyager that I liked where these dudes had like a quantifier about how much their timeline had changed. And the problem was that
Ooh.
yeah, and the thing was is that it was a question of it because basically they were doing it for they were somehow able to stay alive for like hundreds of years, and they just kept on doing this trying to write their timeline, and they even got to like 98% once, but their dude made them restart even though they couldn't quite get to 100, and it wasn't acceptable, but they showed that it was basically it's futile. You can never get to 100. and
I I can imagine.
But the whole thing was dumb because once they destroyed it did end with a Deus Ex Machina though, where like they destroyed the ship, and the ship not ever existing in time made it so none of the problems ever happened. It completely reset the timeline, and everyone was happy again. So that was kind of
Yeah.
weird. That was kind of weird. And then that one didn't make any sense. That one didn't make much sense. It kind of did, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it itself was a paradox. So like literally
Like
everything just disappeared and reappeared, and then like the whole episode was
hard
didn't
Mm.
reset.
happen because they literally all the problems they had, they just go into the system. And the guy's like, "Hey, watch out! There's a war going on." They're like, "Okay, let's stay away from the system," and that was it. that was like the end of the episode. And so they
I
completely
love
skipped.
that.
Like the episode took place over like a year, and then like the whole thing was resets at the end of it's 2 episodes, and then they're just like, "Well, okay, let's not go into that region after all."
Exactly.
That was a great way of doing it. I mean, a lot of people died, so that made sense why they went that route. But at the same time, it was really silly.
Mhm. Yeah, but like there was also I don't think it would count as spoilers anymore given how long it's been since this came out. Like you've already done the in space with Markiplier bit, right?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Like that's another example of a closed loop that doesn't exactly like it's fantastic for a story, but it doesn't exactly make sense logically because like the whole thing is like they break time with this sort of engine thing that was created because they broke time with the engine thing to create the situation that created the engine.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the way they broke it was like they destroyed the engine and made it so that it never was brought into the picture in the first place, which therefore they never went through the situation that created it. But it's like at the same time, how could that have even started? to begin with. Because if it only came into creation because Mark made it, because it was already in creation, throwing him in that position,
There was
where did it come
something.
from to begin with?
There was something. There was something. I think it's an idea of how like if you can suspend a quantum molecule, then it will exist in the same place throughout timeline. And I want and like I think one of the things people said like if
Suspend a
you
molecule.
yeah quantum molecule it says it's like you can if you can suspend it it might stay the exact same throughout every iteration of itself, like collapse it on itself. Then then like if you were to make a time machine like that, then the time machine itself would exist the same no matter what universe it was in. So it itself would not be privy to any time changes. So it would just exist as it is. And so technically, if it would kind of negate the fact that you didn't need the time machine because the time machine would still exist even if you didn't create it.
Well, that'd be useful.
Yeah, it would.
I've never even heard of that before,
No.
honestly.
Yeah, I think like Family Guy did something with his time with Stewie's time machine, is that it just exists even if you made it or not.
I don't remember that. I remember a bunch of Stewie's Time Machine episodes. A lot of them are
It,
pretty fun.
it could
But
have been Rick and Morty. There was something like that, where like something they had like didn't matter. It didn't matter in time, and that was how they got away with stuff because it itself created like a field that
hmm,
suspended that stabilized all time around it.
that is interesting.
Yeah, because if we're
Yeah,
talking about
I'm
time
gonna need to
machine
look at
technically,
those again
if we're thinking about
because
time machine quality, that's not the only way to do it. Is if you have something that can exist in all time periods at the same time, to like
yeah,
to
that's
stay
the
Well,
the
that's
same.
if you
safest way
want
to
to
do it
travel back
anyway.
in time physically. There's also mental time travel, where you go back and either inhabit your own body or inhabit the body of somebody who existed back then. Just like override them briefly.
What you mean, basically be a ghost?
Basically possess people, yes. Like there's this game called Everyone Can Live. It was a flash game,
Hmm.
and what would happen? Yeah,
Oh, you showed me that
and
one. Yeah,
yes.
I vaguely remember it. I don't think I beat
it's a
it.
burning building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a burning building. Every level you have to kill off one of the people. And when the last survivor gets to like the bottom of the building, there's a great flash of light, and all of a sudden you're back at the beginning, and you could choose to save different people. And if you save each one of the people, eventually it's revealed that they're all going to different timelines, different dimensions, and just hopping into the body of the next person. So all the people technically survived because they're all able to like get to different places and have knowledge from like the previous timeline where they escaped the burning building. But all of their friends from their home dimensions had to die, and they all now live in a different dimension than the one they came from originally.
Oh damn.
The mental time
So
thing is really
technically,
interesting too. Like
yeah, it really is.
I would not suggest looking up this anime because it is absolutely destructive to your mental well-being. But Higurashi,
Huh?
it's called Higurashi no Kuni. It's like basically
And you
it's
got on me for bringing up Milo Murphy's Law.
no, this is a really well known anime. It's when the cicadas cry. It's very very infamous. So I would not suggest looking it up. It's based off a game. And it is absolutely devastating. Like people have watched it and like because like it involves a bunch of kids continually dying in horrible ways. And it almost like and they don't the thing is the anime doesn't tell you what it's about for like until like the end of the first season. So it just looks like a show about kids dying. And so obviously most people in fact I did the same thing. I couldn't watch it after the third episode. So I just kind of gave up. And but then like
I'm
someone
just
told me
imagining Happy Tree Friends.
yeah, someone told me there was more to it, and so I watched through. It was really hard because they really wanted like they really didn't want to tell you what was going on, but it turned out the whole thing was a time loop, and like one of the girls had experienced it like 500 times, and she's always the one of the first people. She always dies in every single one, and so that was the
If she
thing.
went through 500 times, how is she always the like one of the first to die? I'd expect she would be more experienced.
So she's so basically the whole idea is that she's tried to fix it. Like they actually show you in one of them, one of the biggest things showing that she knew something more is that in one of the in like one of the timelines that they show before you realize it's a timeline, and she's supposed to be she's like the youngest girl in the series. and so she's supposedly should be the least like appable, like because she's like really young compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
But like at one point, she completely start tries to stop one of the timelines from happening, and you don't know why she knows this. She literally just shows up, and then she goes, "Wow, I failed," and she kills herself, and it's like, oh, and it's absolutely horrible. You're like, what the fuck? But then you realize
The
it's
fuck?
yeah, and then you realize it's because she failed the timeline. She realizes that she just wants to reset it. The whole idea is that she always gets killed by someone, and always in the exact same way, unless she causes her own death somehow. But she doesn't want to kill herself. Obviously, it's fucking horrible. She only did it that one time because like she had no other choice, I guess, because she didn't want to pollute the timeline anymore. And she didn't, and it would have ended up bad for her. She did, and so she just given up. But like the whole thing about that is that like she eventually learns that basically everyone has also experienced this over and over again. They just don't remember. And so through other people's like and there's always someone who survives afterwards too. So somehow she's able to get it together where she finds out like she's able to find out, the like what is going on with the entire town and how and why she dies, and that's how she's able to do it. And it's all about and it's all getting into that mental part and having everyone remember and having everyone work together. And it's a great story, but you have to get past the first 9 episodes, which is not easy to do. Because
Understandable.
like again, I couldn't get. I had to like power through the first 9. I watched. Yeah, by the third one, I was over it. Like I just couldn't watch it because they each arc is in a 3 episode structure, and it progressively gets worse.
Oof.
And like eventually they
Yeah, that makes
explain why. There's like a swamp gas that's making everyone go crazy, and
like
then
in Gotham.
like what?
Like Gotham. Gotham City was built on a cursed swamp.
Yeah, something like that's exactly something. What that's exactly what it's like. Like in fact, it's like a common thing where like people who like every once in a while someone goes crazy. Like
No,
even
that's
people,
just
even
imagining
yeah,
Hound of the Baskervilles episode of Benedict Cumberbatch's uh, Sherlock.
did they do a Hound of the Baskervilles for Sherlock? That's my
Yeah, they
favorite.
did.
Oh my god, that's my favorite Sherlock Holmes story. Wow, I got to see that.
They
And
did
I
like
guess I
a
shouldn't say
tear
much
gas.
more.
Oh
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
no, that's all I'm doing. That's all I'm
I'm
saying.
glad
Tear
I
gas.
interrupted it.
Oh, I'm sorry. God, I don't
Don't worry,
even.
it's only partially related in the sense of madness, but not exactly in the sense of time. That's only tangentially related and
Time
only
loops.
loosely so. So,
Oh,
yeah. Uh, Back in the subject of time,
yeah,
like, paradoxes are always kind of interesting because, like, naturally there's that loop paradox of, okay, let's go back in time to stop this, and then they find out they're the one who started it or something like that, and then
yeah.
what started it originally, or
Not
like,
very odd parents.
exact. I'm sorry?
The very odd parents. You know Mr. Crocker?
That must be an ang. We must be an angry mob. That episode.
Yeah, Timmy went back in time because he found out that Crocker was always mad about one day in particular, and he found out that that's the day Crocker lost Cosmo and Wanda, because Crocker used to have Cosmo and Wanda, and the loss of his fairies, even if he couldn't remember it, made him extremely angry. Timmy also found out, by trying to stop Crocker from losing his fairies, that he was the one who exposed everyone to the town to the fact that Crocker had fairies in the first place, and thus that is why Crocker lost them.
Damn.
And then everyone in town formed an angry mob because they were there to like celebrate Mr. Croc, and they were there to celebrate Crocker Day, but then they didn't know why they were there anymore because everyone forgot all the good deeds the fairies did.
Yeah, I love that too because they're like, we must be an angry mob. Good thing we brought our pitchforks and torches today.
And that's why Mr. Crocker's a bad person.
It's all
Oh
Timmy's
yeah, that
fault.
also reminds me. So like I've been playing Adventure Quest for
Oh
since
god.
yesterday only, and there was a quest where the town mage was fading in and out, and so is you ask him what's wrong, and he's like, I'm not sure entirely. I would assume something with time or related to it, and I might be fading from existence. I should probably be worried, but I'm more curious. And then eventually he decides, okay, you know what? I should probably ask for some professional help because it's only getting worse. And so eventually he calls help. He opens a portal for time and then sends your character because apparently he's already meddled with time before and learned that if he's going to meddle with time, he should not be the one to do so. And so while trying to brief your character on like how what to be like keep an eye out for because ultimately it's they don't even know. These two creatures go running through the portal and apparently start making a muck of things, including trying to kidnap and ransom the mage from the past, which was actually what started the whole thing anyway. So by investigating his disappearing, he caused his disappearing for him to investigate.
That's another closed loops. That's a closed loop that always interested me. And this one is one of those things where it's probably not true because it's probably just people trying to make their lives more interesting. But there's a theory that
Mhm.
like you could possibly be continually going to the future and changing your past, but because you wouldn't remember it happening, then you just have a mundane life because every time something bad happens, you go back and change it, and then you never wanted to go into the future anyway. And then maybe eventually you did create the time machine again to change another thing, but it doesn't matter because once you went back, it didn't change it. So you just lead a mundane life because you're always completely everything time something bad happens or something extremely big happens, you just change it, but you don't remember.
Oh, that kind of reminds me of this one. So bear with me. Superman fan fiction
Oh boy.
by Kitty Unpretty. What happened is that it's focusing on Mom Pa Kent raising Clark and having to deal with time travelers trying to come back in time to kill baby Superman
Oh,
before he
okay,
developed invulnerability.
that's kind of interesting.
And yeah, but each time it'd be someone would come back like, "No, you don't understand. He's a tyrant. He has to stop him." And then like Martha would kill him with a shotgun, bury him, and then be like, "All right, we're going to teach you some empathy things." Or like somebody from the government would be like, "No, we're here to dissect him. We can learn so much." Kills him. Doesn't remember killing him after putting Clark through acting classes so that he could hide he's an alien. Or coming back, "No, you don't understand. He's too perfect. He doesn't understand that the rest of us aren't perfect." She's like, "All right, you're hanging out with all the weird kids now." And she doesn't remember shooting him. So there's thousands upon thousands of empty graves that never existed on the Kent farm because every time somebody came back in time to stop an evil Superman, they'd kill him and then like do something to try to change the trajectory. And because they don't remember it, it never happened.
That's why they have such
And it
good
was
crops.
yeah. Well, the bodies aren't there. The bodies never existed because they never went back in time to kill Superman because Superman didn't turn evil in that particular way.
Oh, I see, I see. That's an interesting
Yeah,
way of
and
thinking
then
about it.
yeah, so the reason Superman's such a great guy is because every time he went bad, someone went back in time, and then the Kents were like, "All right, we're changing that real quick."
There was a movie, I can't remember what it was called, but it's kind of similar to your idea of like that's why we live such mundane lives because we go somewhat in the future
Yeah.
or in the past to change our trajectory and thus we have a normal life. There was a movie where someone essentially had that but like, exaggerated because they wanted a movie. And
Mhm.
so he if he concentrated, he could live in the future and then like kind of snap back to the present to follow that future and like it included stuff like if he were to go through a minefield he would just like walk through the minefield until he steps on a mine, then he would just snap back to the present, be like, okay, don't step right there, and then he would just keep doing it until he eventually has it down, then he just walks
Oh,
across because he's already done it.
next, wasn't it?
Next.
Nicolas Cage, and like
I
it would do that where, like
um
every time he
no,
like
it was Next.
yeah,
I remember this guy.
that's where he would like he wouldn't it's something that he would die, but he knew it would happen, and then he would go,
Yeah.
oh okay, and then eventually it went to the point where like they did a really cool sequence at the end
Oh yeah, where
where he
he's like
like
living a
infiltrates.
bunch of different timelines at
Yeah,
once, and
he
you
yeah. The
it
bodies
looked
fall.
fantastic.
Like when someone shoots him, he's like he's walking up the stairs. It shows his body's like falling down, like where he would have died and stuff like that. And then like
Yeah, and he's just walking through, just like it looked Matrix like. It was a beautifully done scene.
that was a great one too. I think too, like spoiler alert, sorry, but like I remember the end of the movie was also gnarly because like literally At the end of the
It
movie,
came out in
he
2007. It's not a spoiler.
okay, yeah, he goes like, "Wait, I think I got something wrong," and then suddenly the entire city blows up in like a nuclear explosion, and then
And then it just like snaps back to
yeah,
him like at the beginning. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it
like it
snaps up
never
to
happened.
him meeting his love interest, which is like a quarter through the movie. So it wasn't at the beginning. It was it was quite a
Yeah.
bit into the movie, and then instead of like running away from the cops and then eventually working for them, he just immediately works for the cops because he's like,
Hmm.
yeah. And the woman's like, the FBI agent's like, I thought we were gonna have to chase you. I thought we were gonna have to chase you across multiple states, and that's what he'd been doing. That was like half the movie it was. And she's like, I thought we were chasing you here, then we were chasing you there. We went after your girlfriend's parents, and he's like, no, I want to do the right thing. It's like that was pretty
Christ.
good. Like I gotta admit that was one of my favorite one of his movies. Like I don't surprisingly it was so corny, but it was just kind of it was just a
Yeah.
really well done sequences. Like that. Like I think it became a meme for a second while too. Do you remember like the meme where it's like every time someone said something and changed their and successfully like did it off, instead of like the speechcraft meme, it would be just Nicolas Cage dodging a bullet from a sniper. Like some
I don't remember that meme. No.
oh, it'd be like someone says like someone goes like, "Hey," he's like, hey, you want to go out?" And someone goes, "Oh, I don't really think of you that way." He goes, and he puts like an asterisk, goes, "Go out to study," and then the person goes, "Oh yeah, sure, I'd go like to study," and then it would show like a gif of Nicolas Cage like dodging a bullet.
What era of the internet was this? Because we may not have been online at the time.
I mean, the movie came out in
2010s.
2007.
Now this was during memes, so this was like 2010s, mid 2010s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not that long ago.
If there's one thing with time travel tropes that always annoyed me, it was when they would basically like I know that like a lot of things with like acting, including movies, plays, what have you, like it's about communication with the audience so that you know they're on the right page, which sometimes leads to less natural dialogue to ensure that you're aware of the story.
Okay.
But
Okay.
one of the bits that kind of annoys me, even if I try to justify it with that, is when like they try to show that they're going through a loop of the timeline by forcing the characters to unnaturally say dialogue they have already said word for word when it's not prompted like it was.
Oh
Oh, yeah. A bigger issue with time, like something very similar, is when they will have the same events play out, even if you change one of the early events drastically, or if that happens at a
yeah.
different time of day.
Yes.
Yeah, and like say like someone will say something, another character would respond, and then like goes through a loop, and that original prompt never happens. So the other person kind of like prompts themselves so that they could say that same line,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like, why?
Yeah.
Like the best way I can justify that is, just making sure the audience is on the right page. But
Yeah,
also,
making
that's
sure the
usually a
audience knows that's a time loop, but at the same time.
at that point, it's visual enough that they should have been paying attention enough to understand what the hell's going on. If they
Well,
don't, that's
that
on
and
them.
time nowadays time loops are so ubiquitous that an audience should know what it is. Like you'll
True.
still want to have like a character try to explain, "Oh man, it's like Groundhog Day" or something like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've had time loops for long enough that an audience should be able to pick up on it really quickly.
I naturally what I'm referencing with that would be the mystery spot episode of Supernatural.
Oh
Today it was Tuesday, but yesterday was Tuesday too.
yeah.
Exactly. But they were incredibly guilty of that trope because
They were.
they would say
It was so
the
bad.
entire time each time they restarted the loop, it was just like 10 minutes straight of prompting themselves for dialogue they should not say because it wasn't prompted
Mm-hmm.
until they prompted themselves. And it just didn't sound natural at all. It was forced very
Yeah.
clearly.
Now, because that time spoilers, by the way. Now, because
Oh,
that time loop was
fantastic.
actually created by Gabriel, and it's possible that it was just, it's possible that Gabriel just made everyone NPCs. I'm willing to let that one slide a bit more
Same here.
Fair. But that also came out 2008, so
because
that's
it's
not much
like
of a
Yes.
spoiler
implied
either.
was acting like nothing was wrong the next Wednesday.
Mm.
Yeah.
But like, so it seemed more like Gabriel made everyone into NPCs, which would explain why they were all like that.
I think
It
even
did.
Dean, because Dean didn't remember anything either.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, Dean acted like a total NPC that entire
Mm-hmm.
episode. Like even like the next Wednesday, he didn't think it was weird that Sam was acting weird.
And all his
yeah. He,
deaths too,
he didn't
like
notice the weirdness. He would prompt himself for the shit. The only time that he actually acted somewhat naturally that I can imagine was either like when they were trying something new, like when they had him exploring the
yeah,
mystery spot
yeah.
and then he gets shot, or like when Sam grabs him by the shoulder and pulls him back just in time for the old man to come fucking barreling down the road. He's like, "Wow, that was cool." Looks over, sees Sam just like deadpan. He's like, "Did did he just? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
But he's just like,
Did it look cool? You
you
wet
peed
yourself."
yourself.
He's like, "Of course I peed myself. Man gets hit by a car going like 60 miles an hour. You can't expect him to have control over his bowels. Come on." Like, I love that bit. That had me laughing because
I,
that would probably be me
Oh, I remember
I,
there was
in
a
his
meme,
situation.
unrelated, but there was a meme of like a warehouse full of Dean bodies
Oh yeah,
for that episode.
I gotta say,
I like to share it every time I come across it.
that's an
It's just so funny.
that's another trope I like. I love it's just kind of sadistic. I love in these time loops where it shows someone dying over and over again. That one was funny. I really love that episode too. It's just like the most random things. Like Dean like reaches for
Does
his
this also
razor.
taste funny to you?
Yeah, this also stay fun to you, and then just over, and goes to shave himself, and he like dies of electrocution, and Sam just gets
and like
annoyed,
we
just like
can't go
ah.
out for tacos. Goes into the shower and then you just hear the slip and the what? Wake up! It was the heat.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
Did you ever see Doctor Strange?
I which one?
The first one.
I never finished it, but I know the time loop.
Oh yeah, the time of it's over. Dormammu, I want to talk.
Oh, that bit, yeah.
Dormammu, I talk.
Dormammu, I've come to
I've
bargain.
Good to
Dormammu,
bargain.
I come to but the door, the door.
And he just does it forever until Dormammu gets annoyed with killing him. I love
Which, I mean, that's one solution. It's
Yeah.
simply a way to brute force your way through a magic
Just like
adventure.
make someone kill you until they're bored of killing you. That's pretty good though. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Ah! Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
I've also seen like an animated Doctor Strange thing where like the big demon at the like end of the movie instead of the
Oh,
time loop thing, he just eats him pretty
yeah. I know
much.
he imprisons him in a
Absorbs
big
him.
yeah he imprisons him in a big prism.
No, I'm thinking the
Wasn't
one
that
where
one?
he is a being of magical power and he had like a weird like ability to sponge up magic power, so he literally just absorbs
Oh,
him.
okay, that's smart. I always thought you were talking
Yeah.
about the What If universe.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that one was interesting.
I'm not sure.
It's like it's they made an interesting one. They made him lose his heart instead of losing his ability to do surgery, and so he just became and that basically
Uh,
meant that his girlfriend died.
Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme is the specific one I was referencing.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
and so he just decides to kill everyone in the entire
Oof.
he like and like be like an evil sorcerer. That's this whole thing. And eventually like the way they stop him is they just imprison him forever in a little bubble where everyone outside of it is dead. He's basically destroyed the entire roofs and he's the only thing left in this little bubble
Damn.
for the rest of
Ouch.
eternity. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty gnarly. It was like that.
Now, one
Certainly
one thing
strange.
about like implications of time travel, if we're talking about time loops specifically, I really like it when like the loops start where people don't necessarily remember the loops, but they definitely are affected by them. Like there was this Star Trek: The
Ah.
Next Generation episode, yeah, where the ship kept getting like blown up, and none of
Yes,
the characters
yes.
remembered anything.
The card game
And so
one.
you saw it get blown up a couple times, but then they started getting like deja vu. It's like, wait a second, I could have sworn I've played this before, or like, did I have this hand a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
And like they never fully remembered any of the loops, but they
Ooh.
remembered enough to eventually be able to stop it.
There
Yeah.
was a Wizards of Waverly Place episode that was just like that, where
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my
the
god.
poor sandwich.
Wizards of Waverly
the
Place that
sandwich
one?
they came up with,
What?
like, it's a good sandwich, but I feel like we've tasted this before. Tasted before. It's a sandwich with gravy and popcorn on it.
Yeah, it was the best sandwich they've ever had. Such a unique flavor, the first loop, and then 50 loops later, it's boring and repetitive.
I loved that one. It doesn't make a lick of sense as far as like logical time travel goes, but I love that idea of it.
I do like
Well,
things
time
that
travel
cover the
doesn't
river.
necessarily have to be logical. Like a Russian doll. There was one
That's very
character
true.
that always said the phrase "sweet birthday baby," but like every time she said it slightly different, like hinting that she kind
Oh,
of sort of remembered the previous loops. And nothing about that was logical at all. But it was like an interesting catalyst to show to for character development, which I think is my favorite version of time loops.
Yeah.
this wasn't a time loop, but like I still kind of consider it irrelevant. But like 51st Dates, like that one I found interesting because her brain basically resets itself every day. That was the point of the movie.
Oh right, I know
Yeah,
this one.
and I thought it was really funny they did because like just because something repeats doesn't mean it's gonna repeat the same way if you say the same thing. Because like in the very first time he met this girl, he's like they decided to make they started making stuff out of food, like they made like a log cabin out of food or something, and that's how they got together. But then the second time he met her, and he tried the same exact thing, she's like, "What? Do you just touch random strangers' food?" And he's like, "What?" And he totally had, and she totally had the exact opposite reaction, even though he basically did exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Context is important. He didn't let her like lead into that.
Exactly. Like yeah,
See, that would be a good way to do time loops well, where someone tries to do the same things they did, but they don't wait for the right cues to do it.
yeah.
And so people obviously react differently.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah, I can see that.
ReZero? ReZero's like that. I remember he always thinks that he's doing the same thing, but he doesn't.
Hmm.
The I don't That series is really sad though
That I
because
mean,
like he
that would
always
honestly
fucks
be
up.
me in a time loop because
Yeah,
I can't
right.
remember what I did like 3 seconds ago. How am I going to remember it now?
You could be in one right now.
Exactly, and I probably wouldn't know
You would never know
it.
it.
I love the idea of like us recording this and like you could be in one right now. I'm like, yeah, and I wouldn't even know it. And then like that like signals the end of that particular loop, and I'm just cycling through that, but I don't know. Like I could have said that same phrase like 500 times.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
know it.
just imagine you go through a time loop and you have terrible memory, so you don't remember how the first loop went.
Exactly.
You can never
That
get
would be
back to it.
perfect for a time travel movie because I would have a horrible memory regardless. They're like, is time affecting him? No, he's just fucking stupid.
That's what I'm saying. Like just because you know it's gonna happen, that's why it's always funny. Like the Nicolas Cage one. Like just because you know something's gonna happen doesn't mean you'll always be able to do it. Like what was it? Based on a manga, but it's with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, I think it was. And basically, these aliens are attacking Earth, and somehow he killed one, but it bled on him. This thing, and it makes it so he's
Mhm.
continuously reliving the day. And technically, there isn't an end to the day. He just keeps on dying, and eventually he gets to the point where he can like walk. He knows exactly where all the aliens are. So he'll go like shoot this alien. Pull his arm back and shoot this alien, and that's well and good, right? But then there's a part
Yeah.
where he talks to this woman who's like the best fighter, and she fights hand by hand because apparently it's a really good way to fight the aliens. One of those weird ass things. And she trains in a room with these spinning saw blades, and
Oh dear.
literally he just dies like 20 times, and then to the point where then he can like dodge all the blades. But if you really think about it, even if you know the blade is coming, that doesn't necessarily mean you can dodge it. So
Yeah.
like he could have just like finally gotten it and just got his arm chopped off and was like, ah, why?
Ah.
That would absolutely be me where like I would have already been through it and I'd be like, okay, time to nail this like a boss and then like get my arm chopped off like, oh right, I forgot about that one.
It did lead to something like that, where basically like, okay, the only way we're gonna get through this is if you train, because apparently she went through the same thing, but then her her loop ended because like apparently it did something to her blood, but then she got a blood transfusion and like ended her loop or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so she's like, okay, I want you to meet with me every single day, and I'll train you. And like they'll be fighting each other, and she'll accidentally cut off his hand. And he'll be like, ah, damn it. And she's like, dang it. Whenever, and then she'll just shoot him in the head. And so like every single time he fucks up a training, she just shoots him in the head so they can go.
Aw.
I know. And then he has to go through it all over again and explain it to her all over again. It's just
Oof.
like, yeah. And that's how he trades with her. Is that continuously they just keep on doing that. And it's actually a pretty good movie. If you don't mind it being Tom Cruise, but
You
like,
know, that's actually kind of something that I really like is like it's not shown, but it's like it's always hinted at. Like even with the supernatural episode, like every time there's like a time loop and the character's trying to explain the time loop to a character who's not affected by it,
hmm
like yeah, it's always like, okay, if you went through the time loop, then how about you tell me what I'm going to say? And then they say like they go on like a list of like 10 or 15 words that are just completely random and like off hitched. And it's like they're like, okay,
There's
how
like
would
10
you?
or 15 loops,
yeah.
at least.
Yeah, and then like they never show leading up to it. So it's like, okay, tell me what I'm about to say. It's like, well, this is the first time I'm going through. Like this is only the
Yeah,
second loop, so
exactly.
you're gonna have to tell me the word now. And like then you just have to awkwardly just wait for time to reset while they're just like glaring at you judgingly.
That's the thing. Like, they won't know. They might think of a different word.
Yeah,
Exactly,
and that's
because
why DeadSlayer just have a gentleman's agreement to believe each other if one of us says we're in a time loop.
No,
yeah,
No need to waste the time.
that's kind of
and
fucked
that's
up.
something we won't joke about
Yeah.
just in case. Another time paradox thing that I'm curious about your guys' input on would be the how do you pronounce that? Ontological paradox?
Ontological,
Other
yeah.
names being information paradox, self-sufficient paradox, or and the only reason I originally knew the name at all, or a name, from Doctor Who, the bootstrap paradox.
What's that one?
Marigold, you want to explain the bootstrap paradox if you remember?
It's the peach again, isn't it?
The
Pretty,
peach?
I think so.
Oh, you mean where they get
So,
hit on the back of the head or something?
so the way that Doctor Who explained it would be like imagine a time traveler who really likes Beethoven. And
Hmm.
so with the time machine, he decides to go back in time to meet Beethoven. So he goes to the place, he goes to the home, and at the proper time, and no one knows who the hell Beethoven is. Like they don't know what he's talking about. And so fearing that he might have messed something up, he still has like printouts of Beethoven's work. And so he publishes them at the proper time under Beethoven's name so that they exist for his time.
Oh, and he did it, and he was, yeah. Okay.
But then if he never wrote them, who did?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who
They're
were
in
all the
life
people that
paradox.
who were the people who met Beethoven and saw Beethoven?
Exactly. Well, if that were even mentioned in the story, which I kind of wish they did,
Yeah.
because like him being like a popular composer that people would go to, kind of in itself makes the like I can see what he's saying with the story, but at the same time, that particular analogy is a little silly with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I was thinking slightly different. Back to the peach from Milo Murphy's Law. Wouldn't the peach eventually start to decay? And what happens when that peach eventually is ground into nothing? Or it becomes
Exactly.
too mushy to throw?
Plus, when a peach hits someone, it gets damaged
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
eventually
it
that
hits
peach
him
is
and
going
then
to
it
be
hits the
too
ground.
damaged to use, and then what will happen?
Like the guards that would originally miss them were like, "Hey, why does it smell like peach over here?" And then they start actually exploring the area and trying to warn them. They accidentally just gave themselves up. I like that idea.
Yeah, it's a good one. I do like ones where it's like that has multiple different timelines like connecting. I always like that.
I
Like
get.
I really like playing BioShock Infinite. Did you guys ever play
Mhm.
that or see it played?
I
I know of it.
That one
I
had
lost.
so many. You lost. You just lost track of what happened.
No, you know how those games, if you die, then it has you restart, so you can't actually lose.
Yeah.
I lost.
Oh, you did. You just couldn't. I
there
guess
was
if
a
you,
there
yeah.
was a part in the beginning where it's like still kind of tutorial. It tells you to switch ammo types to the explosive bullet so you can explode open the door.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that I wasn't shooting it in the right spot. I don't know if it was the wrong door. I don't know what was going on, but I'd already killed all the enemies, getting more money to buy the explosive ammunition, and then used all the explosive ammunition trying to blow open every door available. And then there were no more enemies, and I was out of money, so I lost.
You had to well, you
Mood.
have to reset
I
from
had to
there. Yeah.
delete that. I had to delete that playthrough and start over.
You could have just like quit and come back. It probably wouldn't have. It probably would have. It saves at the
It
beginning.
auto saved.
Oh, really? Even after you had. after that point, it should only autosave in important parts.
Yeah, it auto saved. I think during various battles, because like there were some rooms that I hadn't fully explored, and so there were still enemies left,
Okay,
and like it would send me back into like battle, like after I had already beaten everyone.
interesting. I never made that
Yeah,
mistake. I wasn't a dumbass.
I am.
But that
I'm
one,
very much am.
that one had like real, that literally had quantum things. Like they had a person who met who met another version of themselves, and then they went into quantum reality. Put themselves in a quantum state, so they were the same no matter what, and they were constantly phasing through different realities.
Oh damn.
Yeah, and it's so, and it was really funny because like them doing that also really confused actual time. So like the one in the time loop you're in is a woman, and there's like a statue of her, and it constantly fluxes back and forth between a man and a woman because the other one that she met is a man, and so it's
Mhm.
like it's really confusing that it's moving like that. Also, like they had a really cool thing where like they were basically stealing music from like the future and then re-releasing
Oh
it in
damn.
their time. So like they
I
had
always
like
wanted to do just that.
yeah, so they had like so they basically had shop quartets singing like newer songs and stuff like that. Like,
Well, like modern times, as far as they're concerned, bardcore, pretty much.
yeah, let me look it up.
So one thing we haven't talked about is what we would do if we could time travel.
I don't know. God, I
That
don't
depends
know.
on my capabilities with time travel and whether or not I would be immune from paradox.
You would be immune from paradox because it's much too difficult otherwise.
Valid.
You wouldn't know if you time traveled if you weren't immune to paradox.
Exactly. Except for towards the future, I could remember going to the future. Unless I altered events to where that future didn't occur, and then I couldn't have seen it in the future if that wasn't the future to have seen.
The only way that
Exactly.
I would think about it, and there's a lot of movies like Click in a Western perspective. Click is like one of the first ones that we could jump through time. In Japan, there was a and I know a couple people who saw this in the United States. There was one called The Girl Who Jumped Through Time, and that was a similar one. But if I could jump forward to skip some things, I would like it as long as I knew what I was skipping, you know,
Yeah.
then that would
So you
help.
like a
'Cause,
skip button?
yeah, if I knew,
Ooh, Quantum
yeah.
Leap.
Oh no,
Yes, Quantum Leap. I was trying to figure out how to bring that up.
but that was
That was a
fucked
fun
up
show.
because he never ever got out of it. He had to do it forever.
He never got home, no.
Yeah, he never got
And it was
home.
implied in the last episode that he just met God. And God was
Just
like, hey,
eventually.
do you want to go home or do you want to continue saving the universe? And he's like, well, I guess it'd make me a bad person if I said I wanted to go home. And God was like, great.
That would be really hard though, because like like I feel like long term implications of it is, can you ever say that you're yourself?
He takes on traits and like personality tics from the people he inhabits,
That's what
too.
I'm saying. Is that like eventually, can
Yeah,
you
because
even
they're
say what
his
your real?
experiences now.
Yeah, could you ever say what your actual self was, or what you ever thought? Can you ever think that your own thoughts are your own if you've taken on, just even if it's just like one single trait from someone? Can you ever, did you ever like that thing in the past? Like all of a sudden you like oranges, but did you actually like oranges in the past, and then you didn't like oranges, and now you like oranges again?
Kind of like with
Um,
Rome taking bits and pieces from every culture they've taken over, and everyone like all the residents of Rome are just like, this isn't Rome anymore, is it?
Hmm, exactly.
the ship of Theseus always manages
Have
to
you
be
heard
brought
of the
up
ship of
somehow.
Theseus?
He's definitely developing someone else's trait rather than his own. You know what I mean? Because like, and I know you could say that like,
Oh, yeah, I
we're
know what
always
you
listening
mean.
to
It's
other
a
people's
philosophical
ones.
nightmare.
Yeah, it really is. Because I mean, like, so that's something that so that's why I'm saying that I don't think I could, I can barely come to a conclusion of my own emotions. I don't know if I could stand someone else's emotions in my own body, in someone else's body, you know.
That's all the time we have for today, people. Thank you for watching this, or watching. Thank you for listening to the semi-toxic discussion. Please remember to like and subscribe and comment how you think time works down below. And be civil about your discussions.
Don't
Cheers.
forget to like and subscribe.
God damn it.
Bye.
Bye!